This is Outlaw, America's alternative voice, with your host, Dean Trantalis.
Welcome back to Outlaw. Thank you very much. This is our 7th show, and we have 3 very distinguished jurists from Broward County, Judge Robert Lee, Judge Susan Greenhawt, and Judge Lisa Porter, who have joined us tonight and have talked a little bit about their backgrounds and have talked a little bit about what brought them to the point of being members of the judiciary. Everyone serves in Broward County, and our phone number again is 877-850-8585, 877-850-8585, if you'd wish to call in and ask any one of our guests a question. Tonight, at this portion of our show, I'd like to just shift the discussion a little bit and talk a little bit about how the gay and lesbian community interfaces or interacts with you sitting on the bench based on the type of law, the area of your jurisdiction, so to speak, your division. Tell us a little bit about your experiences, Judge Greenhawt, for example, in the adoption or the dependency or domestic violence portion of your division. How has the LGBT community been brought before you? Tell us about some of your experiences.
Well, I think that this is a very exciting time for gays and lesbians and even transgender individuals, because for years in the domestic relations side of the family court, we really didn't, if we saw gay or lesbian or transgender individuals, they didn't identify themselves as such. But now many transgender individuals come to court to change their birth certificates now that they've had their surgery or they're in their transition phase, and they're seeking to change their name, from Joe to Mary or Mary to Joe.
Joe to Josephine or something.
Yes, exactly.
But I mean, you're saying that there's a more openness, a less of an inhibition on their part to step forward on issues such as that. You're, of course, what a coincidence that here you're head of the division, and this is the very work that people in the community find themselves confronted with, and now they seem to have a sympathetic ear in guiding people through this process.
But I don't think that the individuals really have any, they're not thinking about that I'm going to be there. It could be one of 9 judges, and they don't really know anything about me, and I don't. They're there about their own issue, not to hear anything from me.
Right, and they can't select the judge anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also now we see many, many, many gay adoptions. That was something that was not allowed in the state.
In our last show, for those of you who are listening, we had Rob Rosenwald, who is the lead attorney for the American Civil Liberties Union, who led the fight which ultimately overturned Florida law, which now allows persons, regardless of their sexual orientation, to adopt children.
Right. So we see individuals coming to court to adopt children, and also second parent adoptions. The partner of a individual that's given birth to a child will come in to adopt that child.
So that they together are parents.
Correct. We've always seen a certain number of people in the divorce portion of the family division that, they had been in a heterosexual marriage and now they are no longer in that marriage, or they're seeking to leave the marriage, and their new relationship is with a same-sex partner, and that's always part of the storyline that's been told for, I'm sure, as long as there have been family law cases. So maybe those people feel more comfortable if their lawyer tells them, my situation. I don't know, because you never know what someone else says about you before they come there that day. They don't tell you, you don't tell them. And in the dependency court, that was always a little more open to gays and lesbians in terms of placement of children. If there was, because it wasn't about adoption, it was just about if the child couldn't be with their parents, the court is relatively open to placing the child with another relative, and if that relative happens to be a gay or lesbian, that was never a prohibition. And foster parents for years have been able to foster children that are gay. The foster parents could be gay or lesbian.
Let's switch over to your other division, domestic violence. Tell us a little bit about your experiences with the gay and lesbian community, and what kinds of situations have been brought before you, if any.
I noticed that, it's very common for gays and lesbians
to be fighting with each other?
Yes, it's equal opportunity.
Very emotional, yes.
Well, I don't think that it's any different than the heterosexual population.
Oh.
I think that there is more of a openness, and that when people are telling the so-called story as to what happened, they don't spare the details as to the gay part of the story. So maybe TV has changed that. Maybe society has changed with the times, but domestic violence court, the main judge that sits in domestic violence is a heterosexual male, and he hears the stories just as much as I do when I'm sitting there.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I remembered a few years back when I was taking cases related to domestic violence and people who are trying to seek temporary injunctions, temporary restraining orders. When I walk into the courtroom from time to time, I guess people identify me as being, an outspoken person in the gay community, so they kind of already know my story, but they don't necessarily know the client's story. And I found myself being totally uninhibited in revealing the story, of course with my client's permission, because I think it's best to just lay it out on the table instead of dancing around the subject and not letting the judge know the full scope of what they're dealing with, because I think they're better able to understand how to mete out justice, knowing all the factors that were at play. If there was a domestic violence issue, what were they fighting over? If they're fighting over something, then you forget to put in that small component of their sexual orientation. It kind of confuses the judge to know, because judges always want to know beyond the face of what they're being told. I know you look at them in the eye and you say, what are you really trying to tell me, and what are you not telling me? And I know, even as a practicing attorney, when clients come into my office, I hear their story, but I also know there's another story. And that's the one I need to hear. And when you fail to disclose the sexual orientation, you're not giving the whole story. And I don't think, and the results are usually not good, because the wrong thing is done, and it didn't have to be that way. But Judge Porter, tell us, in your court, what has been your experience in the type of situations that members of the LGBT community have presented before you, as you've now been sitting there on the bench?
Well, as you can imagine, people find themselves in felony criminal court, whether they're gay, whether they're straight, whether they're bisexual. They got themselves caught up in a criminal situation, no matter what it is. It could be a felony theft, it could be a worthless check, it could be a domestic situation, it could be anything. It's the same types of things that heterosexual people
no greater frequency, no less frequency.
It's and there they are, and they come in with their lawyers, they negotiate with the state just like everyone else, and I have found absolutely no difference in terms of the way the state negotiates with them over anyone else in their courtroom. It's across the board, same type of treatment.
I remember former Sheriff Ken Jenney. He came to a meeting of the Dolphin Democratic Club once, and people were a little unsure of where he stood with regard to the gay community, and because he was never overtly warmed up to the gay community at the beginning. So he starts out his speech, and he starts talking about his background, and he starts saying what his goals are as a sheriff. And he said, he takes his finger and he raises it and he says, "And I do not care what your sexual orientation is." And right away everyone was so excited. We finally had a friend. And he finished a sentence by saying, if you break the law, you're going to suffer the same as anybody else. So we kind of deflated and we said, oh, God.
Right. But let me shift focus here a little bit. When I went into the criminal division at the beginning of this year, one of the things that judges use in terms of jury selection is a juror questionnaire. And every judge types up their own type of questionnaire that help the lawyers and the judge understand about the background of the jurors. And typically what most judges do is they say, how long have you lived in Broward County and what city do you live in? What do you do for a living? What does your husband or wife do? Are you married? What does your husband or wife do?
The judge is asking these
it's
prospective
either,
jurors.
Right, they're asking or it's on a questionnaire. And so right away, before I took the bench in criminal, I typed up a questionnaire, and I for that question I put, what is your spouse / significant other's occupation, etc. And I have found over the past year that it opens up the dialogue, whether you're heterosexual or homosexual, for them to talk about who their significant other is if they're not married. And if you simply ask the question, are you married, and what does your husband or wife do, they're going to answer that question truthfully and say, no, I'm not married, and you're never going to know anything about who the significant other is in their relationship. And most panels that I get, I have members of the gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender community, and they feel very comfortable answering that question because of the way that I've worded the questionnaire. And I think it's important to be sensitive to that so that people feel welcome when they come into the courtroom, because they're there, they responded to their jury summons, they want to serve on a jury, and I think it's important for us to let them feel comfortable and feel open in court.
So when you ask that question, and for example, when the subject of who they're living with, or their relationship, you don't find people in the gay community being hesitant to reveal that. You feel that they're more
total opposite.
Total opposite.
I mean, they come right out. I had.
Is that a pun?
Yeah, they come right out. And I had one member of a panel a few weeks ago say, well, I'm married in Massachusetts. Of course, here it's not recognized, but he does blah, 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 and I do blah, blah, blah. And sometimes I've had 2, 3, out of 22 people, and they kind of look at each other like, oh, you do this. And
now let me ask you about the attorneys. How have their reactions been with answers that have been coming across to you like you've just described?
They've been fine.
Fine.
Totally fine.
Not an issue.
Not an issue. No, I can't say whether or not it was an issue for their client, because if they exercise a peremptory challenge and strike that person, I don't know if they're striking them because of that, or they're striking them because of they were the victim of a crime and it was similar to what we were getting ready to try, or who knows what the reason would be. But I haven't noticed any issue with it at all.
Judge Lee, you've been on the bench 15 years. What has been your experience with jurors, with people who have been before you? And I cannot believe, and I shouldn't be prejudicing the response to this question, but I mean, I cannot believe that was the case 15 years ago.
Well, 15 years ago, we actually, our questionnaires were fairly uniform, to be honest with you, and actually getting to the point where you were paying attention to the actual questions. It was a matter of asking rote series of questions. And then people started to pipe up and say some answers like, well, I'm not really married, but, and then we started to evaluate, say, hey, this questionnaire is really not appropriate for us. But it's interesting because one of my other responsibilities on the bench, I'm now one of the jury qualifying judges, so I get a lot of the feedback from the jurors, and that's one of their number one complaints is for judges that still use the old questionnaires, and there are some that do. That's not to say that they're doing it with any, evil intent. It's just that they're used to using that form. So, but most of us have switched to the form that Judge Porter is discussing. But at the beginning, what we used to do is say things like, and if there's any, and you may still do this, Judge Porter, and if there's any question that you're asked here today and you would prefer to discuss it with us privately, we're happy to do that. I have seen a marked change at the beginning. If someone wanted to talk about their same-sex partner, they would want to do it privately. Now, I can't remember the last time that happened. It's all matter of fact. And as a matter of fact, the response of the fellow jurors is like it's no big deal. The attorneys, it's no big deal. So at least in Broward County, it's become
no big deal.
It's become no big deal. The only issue that I have had a couple of times, it's when you as a judge are on a case or one of the litigants. Now, I'm not sure how this would work in criminal, but I guess it could, is LGBT and the other side is not. And the one that is not has a bit of a concern that maybe the judge is going to show some favoritism of some sort. I've had at least 2 people bring that to my attention.
Explain that again.
That they know that I'm open on the bench. I mean, everybody knows that. When
you're wearing your pink bow on.
I have my rainbow robe on when you come in. No, not. But I mean, everybody knows. So, if there is a case that I'm assigned and somebody has a they know that one side, let's say that there's a lawsuit, a real estate deal falls apart, a lawsuit, and it's going to be
just a general commercial transaction.
Right, and the gay couple's on one side, and the person suing them for the deal falling apart's a straight person. I've had 2 times where they've moved to ask me to step off the case.
Because of your sexual orientation?
Because they feel that is enough of a connection to make me biased in favor of the same-sex couple.
Does it work?
Have you ever refused to do it. I will say, not with this chief judge.
You've refused to do it, but you haven't refused.
No, I've refused to do it.
Okay.
But the first time it happened, this is 2 chief judges ago. Since I've been on the bench, we've had 3 chief judges. He actually counseled me to step off the case. He said, "You don't want it to get in the press. This is going to be," and I said, "No." I said, "Imagine if that were an African American, or if it was a Jewish situation, and you're going to say that you have to get off every case every time you have." I said, "No, I'm not going to do it." And
how did that chief judge respond to that comment?
Well, he said, "Okay, kid." That's what he used to call me. Okay, kid. If you don't mind the grief you may get, and as it turned out, no grief. He thought it was going to wind up in the news and everything, right. and it simply didn't.
Was this a jury case or a bench trial?
This would have been it would have ultimately been a jury trial if it had gotten that far.
Oh, I see.
It wound up not getting that far.
Okay.
So, but those are, I think, for the most part, parties that come before you don't know anything about you as a judge, but there are people that do. I mean, people listening to the show tonight will now know Judge Lee, Judge Greenhawt, and Judge Porter if they see them in the courthouse.
Right. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, it is a good thing.
Well, it's a good thing because it shows the diversity of the judiciary here in Broward County, which I think only benefits those who come before it. I mean, at first we had very few African-American judges, and now we have many more African-American judges.
And very few women to begin with,
And we had very few women, too. When I sometimes go down to court in Miami-Dade County, I still see a dominant type that continues to practice and serve in the judiciary in Miami-Dade County, and I think we have a much more diverse judiciary here in Broward County, and I think that we should applaud ourselves for that. But in terms of inroads, I've been practicing here in Broward County for almost 30 years, and I've seen the judiciary go from the good old boys to where we are today. In the early 80s, I couldn't imagine a person who was gay be serving on the bench. And there were many things that obviously spoke to that. But today, obviously, we have changed as a community. And would you say that it's the community mores that have allowed you to feel more comfortable in your role, or tell us how you feel that this has come about, where you have no problem sitting on the bench being openly gay?
Well, I personally knew when I was appointed that I was immediately going to be targeted. I had to stand for re-election within 2 years because of that issue, and that was a group that approached me that said they were going to do what they could, and as it turned out, they couldn't find anyone to run against me. So
I remember that time.
Right,
I remember that time.
And the irony
even with those 20 attorneys writing that letter telling you to pray to God because of who you were.
The irony of it is, and I mentioned this when I spoke at the Florida Bar's diversity program that they had at FIU a couple of years ago. About 5 years after I was on the bench, one of those attorneys approached me and apologized and said, now that I've seen you on the bench and you actually work, you're doing your job. I don't know what they thought we were going to do, but we do our
cocktails and go to the beach.
Right. So
you wait until you're a senior judge to do that.
So I think now, but your preliminary comments about Broward as a whole, I think of that often because we go to these annual judicial conferences in Florida once a year where all the judges come together from every part. We have 33 counties in Florida that still only have one judge. 33. That's half our counties in our state only have one judge, and they're almost all the good old boys. So when you hear something like that,
one judge, one county, one circuit?
No, just one judge.
One judge,
because they're small enough that
small population,
right? They have to share a circuit judge with the other counties in their circuit.
Wow! And here we have 100.
So when we when we get together and talk about different things, you can tell, and there's this camaraderie that Dade, Broward, Palm Beach have on the bench a lot of times because we do feel that we are like almost a different culture that is being brought up where these differences don't really mean much. As opposed to, we have a circuit judge in Broward County, Judge Majid, tells the story all the time. He's from India, and how much hate mail he still gets to this day. I've only gotten 2 hate letters since I've been on the bench.
I didn't think I worded it that strongly.
But when you think about in this day and age, you have a judge that's only because he's from another, he's of Indian descent, that's the reason he's getting hate mail. It's amazing. So I think we are a special place here in South Florida.
Judge Porter or Judge Greenhawt, have you ever gotten hate mail or mail? Not so much hate mail necessarily, but mail that was meant to attempted to intimidate you because of your sexual orientation?
I don't really think it's like that. All of the family court judges get negative mail from the party who feels that
aggrieved.
Yes, or and we deal with a lot of people with mental health issues. So a lot of times when they're listing, saying all the things they hate about you, they'll add that to the list. But I don't think that it's number one. It's
just a little icing to give it a little sparkle. Okay.
Yeah.
Judge Porter.
I get mail every day.
But related to your sexual orientation?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's just I need to be out of jail. Mitigate my sentence. Things like that.
Okay. Well, it sounds to me, based on what we're hearing tonight, is that the issue of sexual orientation has kind of grown very faded and kind of thinned out, and it's a message perhaps we should take it to other jurisdictions.
Right. And if I could just add one thing, though, but if you do come to court in whatever capacity, whether it's as a party, as an attorney, as a juror, and you do feel that has been made an issue in your case wrongly, you need to let one of the administrative judges know, because we are there to address those issues. I've only recently heard it once, and it had to do with someone that was on a jury panel felt they weren't being treated fairly because of their sexual orientation. But don't think you don't have recourse. If there's something that we need to know, you need to tell us.
We meaning?
I would say the administrative. I'm administrative judge in county. Judge Greenhawt is in family, and any of our administrative judges that we have, you don't have to write the judge that you're in front of, but just let us know what happened, and we'll take a look at it. We go to diversity training once a year.
Right. So really, sexual orientation isn't the only issue that comes up. No. So any kind of attempt to minimize the credentials of a judge because of their personal characteristics or their religion or their faith or whatever, all those things would come up.
If you've been demeaned for some reason that has nothing to do with anything, just because of who you are, not the position you're taking, then that's not appropriate.
I see. Well, you certainly have educated me a lot, and I hope our listeners as well, and I truly appreciate you all coming here tonight. I know it's a busy holiday season, and we all have a lot of things we've been invited to, and probably a lot of cleaning we're doing up for the parties we're having in our own homes. But I think it's really important for the people of this community, and not just the gay and lesbian community, but the community at large, to know that there are competent, prominent individuals who are members of the judiciary who have made an important contribution to who we are and who we are as a people, and adjudicating issues that come before them that have nothing to do with their sexual orientation. And you certainly, over the many years that you've been on the bench collectively, have shown the community how important it is to have you there, and that your sexual orientation, if anything, has brought you closer to people, not just and is not just a component to who you are that sets you apart. We are all one, and we together make this a better community. So thank you again, and stay tuned next week, same time, same place, here on WFTL. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
From Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and the studios of 850 WFTL, this is Outlaw, America's alternative voice, streaming around the world at outlawshow.com.